Hi everyone, welcome and thank you for being here. So we're just gonna give 2 to 3 minutes and let a couple more people join in and then we'll start. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Devika from QGLUE, your co-host for the webinar. I welcome you all to the webinar, Back of the Napkin, Solving Problems with Pictures by Ayat, Managing Partner and Master Trainer at Infinity Skills. She is the principal course leader in Asia for Dan Brome's international bestseller, The Back of the Napkin, Solving Problems with Pictures, which is a powerful new method to communicate ideas through visual thinking. Let me take you guys through a brief introduction of QGLUE. QGLUE is a design and innovation arm of QAI, a 25 plus years transnational organization that helps accelerate design-led innovation via various interventions. Now, while QAI is a global consultancy, advisory, and workforce development organization addressing operational excellence, QGLUE uses design-led practices to help businesses build services that people will love and those that will impact the world around us. Using a human-centered approach, QGLUE equips people to solve complex problems by helping them reach a solution that's not just right, but also desirable. So leading thought leaders and practitioners across industries have come together in QGLUE to create an entity leveraging on the legacy and foundations of QAI. Now, before we start, just a quick note for all participants. There's a question panel on the right-hand side of the screen. So during the webinar, at any point you have any queries or questions that you want addressed, just go ahead and type those in. And Ayat will try and take as many as possible towards the end of the webinar. So welcome once again, everyone, and over to you, Ayat.
Thank you. Good evening or good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Back of the Napkin webinar for the next 1.5 hours. I will basically share a little bit about what the solving problems with pictures. Okay. So basically, just let me do a very quick introduction. What we do, share a little bit about the author, Dan Rome, and a little bit about myself, and then I'll kickstart with the webinar for today. Now, as you can see from here, we are basically involved in what we call training. And the work that I have been doing over the last 11 years with the author, we actually focus on what we call the Visual Problem-Solving series. And as you can see, the whole fundamental is based on the science of vision. And we also have what we call certain fundamental toolkits that we can use to look at navigating our problems. And of course, the other thing that we're also very involved in is actually in consulting, strategic visual consulting. Now, so this is Dan Rome. As we can see, he actually has written 5 books, which are international bestseller. I stumbled upon his book when I was actually reading what we call the Business Week, where it was featured the most innovative book for 2008. And that's when, after 2 years, I connected with him, and then I represent him in this part of the world. So the Back of the Napkin was the first book that was written. It's basically about solving problems, selling ideas with pictures. And then he wrote a workbook that supports what we call the Back of the Napkin workshop. His third book is blah, blah, blah. And this is really interesting. It's about what to do when words don't work. Then we have a presentation, which is show and tell. And it's basically a leadership program book, which is actually Draw to Win for participants who want to lead, sell, and innovate ideas. So a little bit about me. I have been working with Dan for the last 11 years. And basically, as an entrepreneur, I started my business in 1994. So I spent over 26 years. I have run .com companies, run small little setups. And of course, today, I'm mainly focused on training. I'm also an educator. I teach part-time at the university. The program that I do is Creativity, Innovation, Design for the last 4 to 5 years. Prior to that, for 15 years or so, I was actually teaching entrepreneurship. So today, our focus is on basically visual thinking. The whole concept is, for me, is about applied visual thinking and how I use the tools to apply in different scenarios, not only to solve problems, but to communicate better, for career planning, for strategy, for communications. And the approach I normally like to adopt is through storytelling. So let us start now. Kickstart the back of the napkin. Now, so what we're going to do over the next 1.5 hours is basically 5 sessions. I may be a little ambitious, but I think it's important that if we start a session right, you will fundamentally be able to grasp the tools that we're talking about, and hopefully that will help you start looking at problem solving or in better communication. So the first one, as you can take a look at it, I will spend a little bit of time on what is visual thinking and why pictures. I'm basically going to share with you a story to introduce the author's work to you, and then we are going to draw. I feel this is a little bit challenging on a webinar. I wish I could see everybody and could see everybody's drawing, but unfortunately this is not the case. But what I would like you to do is all of you should have your paper and your pen ready. And as we go, I would like you to participate. And with that, hopefully take you through the process of drawing simple pictures. And what we're going to introduce is basically visual alphabet. The concept is very simple. As long as you understand visual alphabet, you can draw anything and any ideas that you have. Then I'm going to share with you the conceptual Swiss Army knife. Basically, this is the entire crux of the back of the napkin, where we look at the tools to dissect and break down our problems into bite-sized pieces. And because it is such, there's so many tools that we're talking about, so I'm only going to focus on one, which is actually called the 6x6. 6 ways we see, 6 pictures we draw. So this will be the focus. Now, and then of course, I will end the session with a story that I would like to share. And that particular story that I'm going to share is the reason why I decided to do the back of the napkin, and I decided to contact the author because I was fascinated by it. Now, so let's start with the first important thing. So the session, hopefully over the next 1 hour or so, we will help build what we call your visual muscle. Now, we actually are innately visual, and a lot of us probably don't capitalize that innate ability. So let me just illustrate this example. Now, imagine this circle. And this circle represents 100% of all the neurons in our brain. It means everything that helps us see the world is actually represented in this circle. 75% of this entire circle actually of our brain actually used to process what we call sensory information, of which slightly more than 50%, which is this part here, is focused on vision. So vision is the #1 thing the brain does, and we are so good at it, but the question is, do we capitalize it? Now, let me just very quickly ask a question, and maybe you could just answer it very quickly and just send me a message through the questions text. Now, so if I were to say the word bicycle, tell me what pops up in your head. Can somebody want to type it in? Very good. So basically what we have seen is a lot of you actually look a circle, two wheels, two rounds, a circle and a stick, vehicle with two wheels. It is amazing. So in other words, every time when we have a conversation with someone and certain words, actually we are discussing a certain topic, the visual image will pop out. And it was fortunate that none of you actually typed BICYCLE. And if that is the case, I think that's it. We are done for today. Huh? So basically, we are all visual. Now, the intent of this visual thinking concept is to enable everyone to be able to see their world more clearly. And as we all know that we live in a very complex world today. I mean, even looking at what COVID-19 is, many people can't grapple the complexity of what's happening around us. And so the key at the end of the day, we all know that we live in what we call the VUCA operating environment. The world is becoming very volatile, very uncertain, very complex, very ambiguous. So we want to be able to navigate, to be able to share complex ideas with people. And I'm very sure this happens all the time, which means to say if you are in a conversation with someone, and when someone explains a novel idea, and you may not understand nor comprehend what the idea is, and the moment the person takes a piece of paper, draw a box, a square, and that immediately gives you an idea of what the person is talking about. And we are intuitive to pictures, and immediately our focus is on the picture drawn, and the discussion will be, or the questions we raise will be on the picture that's been drawn, and therefore we can have a conversation after that to actually then probably even offer suggestions or even solutions to the ideas that they have. So let's move on. Now, so I'm going to share with you a picture story. Now, this picture story is, I can't think of a better way than to introduce the author Dan Rome through his work and his involvement with regard to the visual world. Now, this is about the healthcare reform in the United States. You and I probably don't care very much about it, but I was thinking that it is a powerful story to share of how powerful visuals are in communicating complex documents. So as you can see from here, this lady who actually wants a reform, you can see the angst, and you probably see this guy here equally upset with regard to the healthcare reform. And sometimes it is hard to understand why the angst for these two people, and we probably ask ourselves, is it that people disagree or just people don't understand? So what happened was the author then decided, why don't he download the American healthcare reform, the legislation, and take a look at what the new legislation is in relation to what it was before, so that he can have some sense of what the big picture of the legislation is all about. So as you can see from here, this is the first 2 pages. Then you can see that this is the first 8 pages. This is 309 pages. Oh, sorry, this is 105 pages. This is 392 pages. The entire healthcare reform is 1,447 pages of a document no human being can understand. So how do we normally read? We probably take the content or the part that impacts us, and we probably says, oh yeah, this is what affects us. And after you read it, my goodness, you will probably be upset. Then there's another group of people who then say, oh, this also impacts me. And maybe as you take a look at it, oh, this section, so they will read it, and obviously then equally upset. So if we take a look at this document, it was very hard to comprehend. So the author then decided, why don't he try drawing pictures to explain what the legislation is all about? So just the background of Dan Rome. He actually wanted to be a medical doctor, and probably that's why healthcare was something that he was very, very excited about, or concerned about. And he then decided, together with his friend, locked himself in the room and drew 51 pictures to explain the healthcare reform. So I'm going to share with you the pictures that he's drawn. Now, this is not about showing you all the pictures. So I'm going to show you some samples of the pictures that he has drawn. And as you can see from here, this is the healthcare reform, and they basically are involved with three parties. Here you have what we call the providers, which are the medical doctors, the hospitals that provide the infrastructure, and the pharmaceutical organization that provides the drugs. Now, on the right-hand side here, you can see that this involves the insurance organization, and they are the ones who process your payment or to tell you whether you qualify for the treatment. And right in the middle here are basically the citizens. So as you can see from here, these are the people involved in the picture. And as we all know that they're all in business. So as time goes on with rising costs, obviously the cost of healthcare has gone up. And so there's a certain factor, a huge group of people will probably not be able to afford the healthcare. So they fall off the system. So what happened now is when the Senate approved the actual healthcare reform, the changes are actually related to the insurance side, where they have to provide what we call universal coverage. Pre-existing conditions are waived, and of course, providing lower costs in terms of affordable costs to all citizens. And when the approval came, they have an exchange where the insurance organization, together with the hospital group, actually then establish an administration to ensure that the Healthcare Act is being administered. So what the author then did was he uploaded it into SlideShare, and as you can see, 5 million downloads to date with regard to the healthcare reform, and it was actually drawn on the back of the napkin. It was then picked up by Huffington Post, which is an online newspaper in the United States, where it featured the healthcare explained on the back of the napkin. And you will never imagine where the next call came from. It came from Fox News. And the author, Dan Rome, was asked to speak on primetime TV news, of which almost 60 million people watch him draw the healthcare explained on a whiteboard through the use of pictures. A quick question now. Guess who called him the next round? The White House. And obviously then Dan went to the White House, and he went to the Department of Communication, and where he actually did a couple of assignments to share how to draw simple pictures to communicate complex issues or complex topics. And that's when the White House then used what we call a whiteboard to express that. Why do I tell you this story? The reason why I tell you this story is because whoever draws the best picture wins. And it is actually not that he was really the expert of the healthcare, but because he actually did it in such simple pictures that people looked at him as the expert of the American healthcare reform. So similarly, if we can communicate better through the use of pictures, our ideas as we present it to management will become clearer, and because of its clarity, your proposition will probably be funded. So now, I would like to introduce you the Swiss Army knife. So everybody now, please take a piece of paper, and we are going to do it together now. And I'm going to draw, and you're going to draw with me, because it's important that from here you begin to understand the concept much better. So first thing first, put your paper on the landscape mode. On the left-hand corner of your paper, I would like you now to actually draw a small circle to represent you. So draw you. The drawing tools are not so good, but anyway, let's try. And this is me. And I would like you to write your name. And I will write my name. The reason why we do that, it is very important when we talk about problem solving, we must own the problem. Most times when people say, oh, I have a problem, but oh, it's not my problem. So, but today we are going to take ownership of our problem. Now, so let's now do the second one. Huh? On the bottom left-hand corner, now don't draw it yet. I just want to share with you a concept. Now, if I were to say this, if my problem, this is my problem. If my problem is smaller than me, I actually don't need a tool. So conceptually, this is what it is. We are talking about basically looking at the problem being bigger than me. So this is me. So now this, the second at the bottom, I would like you to draw a bigger bubble and I would like you to write down my problem. Now, the Swiss Army knife. We all draw now. Everybody follow me and draw the body of the Swiss Army knife. The first set of tools is a set of 3 blades. So everybody draw 3 blades at the right hand side, right hand corner of your blade. And we call this the built-in tools. So this is what we innately possess, the built-in tools, okay? Now, so the built-in tools is actually made up of 3 blades, and they are what we innately possess will be our eyes. So what our eyes are for? Our eyes are basically to scan patterns. And everywhere we walk every day, we are scanning patterns. And the moment the pattern changes, your eyes closed, your brain will take over, and then you try to analyze the change or the information that is different from what you have seen before. So this is what we call your mind's eyes, which is actually your brain. So the third one, the moment my idea, if the information or the data that I've seen, I tear it apart, I break it down, I turn it upside down, a new idea pops up, and now I want to share the idea with someone else. So I will use my hands plus my eyes. With my hand and eye coordination, I will draw the ideas and share it with someone else. So we innately possess. So the intent here is at the end, the more you practice, the sharper you'll be able to see, the more you can imagine your solutions and the ability to draw to communicate your ideas to others. So this is what we have. So we need to practice this. Now, the next set of blades is a set of 4 blades. So everybody draw 4 blades now. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is what we call the visual thinking process. Now, the process is 4 steps. Step 1, look. Step 2, see. Step 3, imagine. Step 4, show. So this process means it's something that we do it all the time. Sometimes we don't even, we actually don't recognize it, or sometimes we forgot about it, or we take it for granted all the time. So we will have to, the process is look, see, imagine, show in that sequence all the time. So let me give you an example. Now just imagine you are at the crossroad and you are standing there and you just look. So when you look, you're just scanning. Cars are coming, motorcycles are coming, people are walking, and then you decide that you want to cross the road. So the traffic light now turns green, and then as you're walking, you begin to see the details around you. And at the corner of your eyes, you're looking at the car coming. And the way the car is coming, the speed at which it's coming, you then realize that if you cross the road now, you imagine the car is going to knock you. And so what you're going to do is you're going to demonstrate an action, and you're probably going to jump backwards. And this car will screech right in front of you. So basically, the fact that we are able to do this all the time, look, see, imagine, show. That's why we are all alive today. So this is the process. Now, in what we normally do when we talk about look, we're actually doing data visualization. Sorry. So this is data visualization. When we look, we'll be doing this. And in essence, when we talk about data visualization, the concept is, okay, so when we talk about visualization, the concept is words and text. How do I now express it visually so that people can understand? A picture drawn that within the organization, someone very junior and someone very senior can understand the pictures that you have drawn or the explanation you want to give. For C, we now need another set of 6 blades. So now let's draw 6 blades here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for the 6 blades, we call it the 6 by 6. And the reason why it's called 6 by 6 is based on the science of vision. 6 ways we see, 6 pictures we draw. After a while, you begin to realize when we talk about pictures, we're talking about business pictures, okay? So the 6 by 6 is actually the 6 W's. So the first W is the who and the what. The second W is the how much. The third W is the where. The fourth W is the when. So when we talk about solving problems, we are going to draw the first 4 W's. The who and the what of a problem. We have to quantify a problem. The how much is a problem. The where a problem sits. And the when it happened. Then we are going to use the next 2 W's, which is how and why, to solve the problem. So we have basically 6 W's. Now, as we all know, every Swiss Army knife has a corkscrew. So now let's take a look at it now. And we're going to draw the corkscrew, which is actually on the left-hand bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have what we call a mnemonic name called squid, which is S, Q, V, I, D. So basically, to imagine, we will use squid to come up with as many possibilities. It's very hard to draw. I don't know why. It's the leg thing, okay? Possibility, possibilities, I-E-S. Okay, so basically, my one idea, I would draw 10 pictures. So S stands for, I'm not going to write, so you just capture it. S stands for simple. Opposite of simple is elaborate. Q stands for qualitative. Opposite of qualitative is quantitative. V stands for vision. Opposite of vision is execution. I is individual. The other side will be comparison. And D is delta, which is difference versus as is. So effectively what it means is my one idea, I can draw a simple picture or elaborate picture, a qualitative picture or a quantitative picture, a vision picture or an execution picture, an individual picture or a comparison picture, or we could draw a difference picture versus an as is picture. So my one idea, I draw 10 pictures. So why do we do that? Because when we want to show to the audience we want to present it to, it will depend on the appetite of the audience. So the second purpose of Squid is to actually use it as an equalizer. EQUALISER. So basically, this is what it is. So in other words, it's like a hi-fi system, the M. Okay, so what we do is, if you're presenting to your CEO, you probably do show a vision picture. If you're presenting it to your ops people, you will show the pictures of the execution picture. If you're going to actually talk to a finance person, you're actually going to show a quantitative picture. So basically, this is what Squid is about. Now, you will notice something really interesting now, that everything actually boils down to the first set of 3 blades. So I'm going to illustrate this to you now. So this is the eyes, we see. So we look and we see. And for us, look and see, we will use the 6 W's. Okay? To actually break our problem into bite-sized pieces and share. Now, the second one, which is actually the mind's eye, which is this. And our mind's eye is to use to imagine. And to imagine, I will use Squid to share my idea. And the third one is what we call the hands and eyes, which is to show. And we will use Squid as we draw the picture and show it in accordance to the appetite of the audience. So fundamentally, what is very critical for visual thinkers is sharpen the way you see your problems around you. Let your mind be free to imagine as many options and solutions are possible. But the key at the end of the day is the depth of the knowledge of your subject matter and how wide you read to allow the trajectory of the imagination to stretch. And of course, the last one is to draw and be comfortable to share ideas with regard to what you have done. So this is the tools that we are talking about. Given that I have a very short time, I will only focus basically on the 6 by 6. Okay, now, so I'm going to erase this now and I'll go to the next one now. So we're going to spend a little bit of time. I think it's challenging, but let's try and do it. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to draw. Okay, now a lot of people say, yeah, I think it's great. I like the idea, but I can't draw. So now let's take a step forward now. And I just want to clear this and to ensure everybody that everyone can draw. Now, where we are coming from, we are not talking about an artistic process. Where we are coming from, we are talking about drawing as a thinking process. So if you imagine this now, the only way I can share my ideas through pictures is when I have thought through the entire process And the clearer my thought process is, the clearer my idea is developed, I can then take a pen and share it with someone else. So actually drawing is the last step in the visual thinking process. It is about how you allow your ideas to actually develop and then take it to the next level. So please don't have this fear, because we are talking about simple pictures and we're not talking about sophisticated pictures at all. Okay, so now everybody take your paper now and we are going to draw together. So what I want you to do now is I want you to do 2 dots and draw another dot. So basically, I want you to draw 2 dots. Now, we tend to want to do this. When you have 2 dots, what you normally want to do, you will want to connect the dots. So that's what we will do, okay? So we are looking at dots, we're looking at lines. So now let's do the next one. We are going to start with 4 dots. So everybody now follow me and draw 4 dots. So if I were to join the line of these 4 dots, it becomes a square. If I do 4 dots here, it will become a rectangle. So everybody follow me and draw. So rectangle can be vertical, your rectangle can be horizontal. Okay, so if we take a look at it now, let's have fun and let's try to draw the city skyline only using straight lines. So just follow me and let's do it together. It's a bit laggy, but never mind. Just for the fun of it, just indulge yourself to have a little fun. And you're going to draw the city skyline. For people who are a little bit more artistic, they try to do it a little bit 3D, right? So they show, so they will do that. So you have what we call buildings. And of course, if you take a look at it, you can also stack more at the back. All buildings have what we call windows. So let us now draw using straight lines only. Okay, so we draw windows. Oh my goodness, the pen is very laggy, okay? But never mind. We are going to make the best out of it. So it can be straight lines like this. It can be like this. So we have what we call, oh my gosh. Okay, we have it like this, okay? So you have basically putting windows in the buildings. Now, as you can see, this is how we view city skylines. And today, because of infographics and a lot of icons have been drawn, many of these now has been converted. And if you were to express what we call a commercial office, you will draw this. So if you go into an icon, just click buildings or office, this becomes an icon for building. So as we actually express our ideas to others, we actually can do that. Okay, now, so which means to say now, if I were to do this, now this is just for fun. Now let's think about it from the business, and you think about all the straight lines that we have drawn in business. Many of us actually draw matrix. A typical one that we are very familiar with is probably the SWOT analysis. I'm not sure why the pen doesn't work very well. It's very gibberish. So I'm going to do it slowly. Okay, so this is SWOT analysis. So we can draw that and then we can use this matrix to explain everything that we want. In fact, for the last couple of years, I was actually very interested in VOCA. So in the Harvard Business article, if you go in Google, there is this image that was actually shown, but actually it was actually a text that was written. So they were talking about VOCA, and they draw something like that. C, A. I'm sorry. I'm not sure why, but the pen is very laggy. Okay, so VOCA. So you can actually think about doing this and then explaining what it is. But of course, you have to put in the matrix. And of course, in SWOT, we will probably do what we call internal, external, which is what is low and what is high. In VOCA, we can use two things, which is actually what we know and what we can predict. My goodness, I think I've drawn too many things in a picture like that. Sorry. Okay, so one at the x-axis is known, at the y-axis is predict. Then you can actually explain what VOCA is, and the solution space is actually in the form of this matrix. Okay, now let's move on. I'm sorry about how laggy it is now. Now let's go to 3 dots now. 3 dots. Everybody draw with me 3 dots. So this is 3 dots. So we join the lines. So this is top down. And then we have the other way is actually bottom. So triangles. So 3 dots are basically triangles. Yeah. So just for fun. Now let us all draw a castle just using triangles. So everybody now follow me and draw a castle just for fun. I'm going to do it slowly. Here's the castle windows. The castle is a triangle door. We have flags. Okay, so triangles, you can actually draw a castle quite easily, right? Now, so in business, we do a lot of triangles. And if you take a look at this, this is what we call the Maslow hierarchy of needs. So what we do is our basic needs, and then as we go up, we have what we call the self-actualization. Yeah. Nutrition tables are also done in the form of a triangle. In business, we always draw shapes of triangles and different sizes of triangles to depict different revenue size. So it is always used. And for me as a banker, I worked in the bank for 15 years. When we talk about analysis, we always talk about it being top down, or we talk about bottom up analysis. So it depends on where you come from. And I currently run a simulated internship for undergraduate students to help them to become analysts. So what they would normally do is, depending on their background, they will focus on macro analysis or bottom up, which is micro analysis. So triangles are very, very powerful. Okay, now let's move on to the next one. 1 dot. Now 1 dot actually represents what we call circles. So let me just change the color of the pen. Okay, so I put 1 dot, then I draw circle. Oh my gosh, the circle doesn't look round at all, but it doesn't matter because I'm not sure why, but nevertheless, I assume that this is circle. And I always tend to do this a couple of times, and this doesn't work because the pen runs by itself. Okay, so I'm sorry about that. So circles. Now, just now when you mentioned, I said, when it comes, what comes to your mind when you think of bicycle? And everybody says 2 circles. So very good. So now let's draw 2 circles. My circles are really bad. Okay, I'm not sure why the pen is like that, but never mind. So we have what we call a triangle in between, and then you have two lines coming down, and then you have two those small straight lines, and then you have an oval shaped seat, so you have a bicycle. Wow. So in other words, what we have just done is we take shapes, side, and then we actually turn the shape into a picture. So for us, a bicycle is two wheels, one triangle, two straight lines, two small straight lines as the handle, and then we have the oval for the seat. So then we have what we call a bicycle. Now, of course, circles represent a lot of what we call emoticons. Unfortunately, my circle is not doing very well. It can't turn. So basically what we're going to draw basically is draw emoticons. And when you talk about emoticons, you're going to put eyes, and then you put a mouth, and then of course you add in features. Unfortunately, this is turning into a disaster, but never mind. So mostly for us, when we practice circles, we'll be drawing faces. Now, when we are solving problems, circles are very, very important because when we are drawing the who are involved in a problem, we are going to draw the person, and we are actually going to draw the features of the person to depict who the person is. And in an in-house workshop normally, or where we have this, in the same organization, when they draw the pictures, it is really, really hilarious because everybody recognizes who they're talking about. So for circles, we normally do that. And of course, we can also depict what we call different professions to do this. Okay, now, the next time I will make sure I draw the pictures ready and put it in so that easier for you to see. Huh? So my apologies for this. Now, let's move on. Now, then no dots. No dots are basically clouds. At least hopefully it looks like clouds. So basically, no dots means you're talking about blobs, and basically be able to draw everything fluidly. Okay, now, so this is with regard to drawing. So what have we done? If I were to now summarize it, we are actually talking about the visual alphabet. As long as you can draw a dot, a line, an arrow, a square, a triangle, a circle, a blob, you can draw any ideas that you have. So at the end of this session, what basically you will be able to do is, as you walk out of your home or when you're looking around inside your house, everything you're going to look at is all in the form of these shapes. And because you recognize the shapes, you therefore can draw, I repeat, any ideas that you have. Okay, now, so I would like to do a very quick exercise just for fun. I would like you now to draw your favorite animal. I would love to draw my favorite animal now, but I think my problem with the iPad or whatever it is now, the drawing seems to be a problem, but I will try. So I'm going to give you all 2 minutes to do this. And the clock doesn't even work too. Okay, so I'm going to time you. The clock starts now. 2 minutes. Just for fun, huh? Okay, everybody, time is up. So I have actually tried, but my pen is not working. I don't know why. I should have actually tried it the other day. So I tried to draw a giraffe. Okay, so every one of us can actually do that. So I actually did draw a giraffe pretty nicely, but anyway, based on this, we have a problem. Okay, but never mind. I was hoping that we could get everybody to show the photograph, but it is there are pictures that they have drawn, but it is actually very difficult on a webinar like this. Okay, now, so what's the message? What's the takeaway? You can draw any pictures or any ideas you want by learning how to use the visual alphabet. Yeah. Now let's move on. Oh, so no sharing. Okay, sorry. Now, so what we're going to do is this. As you can see here, I shared with you some basic business icon library. Is typically what you would think about drawing, and today icons are readily available. In fact, if you just Google, you can find it. So for me, when I first started this visual journey, I'm not what we call a natural artist, but I was actually very fascinated. So I began to practice, and every time I'm looking for a representation of an idea, I will actually then take the icon and practice it probably 20, 30 times of the same picture. So I have an entire book that I actually draw smiley faces 100 times, maybe tables 20 times. So I keep drawing that until I become very comfortable with it. Okay, now, so when we think about the visual and when we think about the Swiss Army knife, fundamentally it's rooted for us to understand the neurobiology of science, the science of vision, of how our eye sees. Understanding how we see will help us understand why we use the coordinates to navigate through our problems, to navigate so that we can tell a story, to navigate so that we become better communicators. Yeah. So I'm going to show you 4 pictures, and I'm going to flip the pictures twice, and then I'm going to prompt you. Okay, and what you can do is you can actually go to the question area and then type your answer. Okay, now, so picture A, picture B, picture C, picture D. Okay, I'm going to repeat the pictures again. Picture A, picture A to picture B. Tell me what's the difference between picture A and picture B. So just type, everybody. What's the difference between picture A and picture B? I'm going to go back to picture A again. What's the difference between picture A and picture B? Anyone wants to answer? Anybody? Picture A and picture B. So you will see that from picture A and picture B, we actually now see movements, right? Movements of the what call it? The plane moved, the clouds moved, the boat moved, the birds landed. So we actually see pictures. So picture A and picture B, basically, can anybody answer this question? What has passed? From picture A to picture B, what has passed? Anybody? Very good. So time has passed. Awesome. So everybody knows that time has passed. So now let's take a look at pictures. Okay, maybe answer another question. How much time has passed between picture A and picture B? How much time has passed between picture A and picture B? Seconds have passed. Very, very good. Now let's take a look at picture C now. So can you tell me what happened in picture C? There's a commotion, right? So what do you think happened? Very good. So the whole concept is the dog saw the birds, got excited, rushed out, and created the entire commotion in the picture. Okay, now then we have picture D. Okay, tell me what happened to picture D now. It's night. Very good. So time has passed. Can you now tell me how much time has passed? Hours have passed. Very good. Now we have just seen 4 black and white pictures. And what is so interesting in these 4 black and white pictures is there's no color, there's no sound, but you could hear that the commotion in the picture. There is no clock, but you could tell me seconds have passed and hours have passed. So based on the entire black and white pictures, the 4 pictures we've just seen, we have just exercised the entire cognitive ability of our brain. So let's take a look at it now. So based on this, let's understand a little bit about how we see. Now, from a process perspective, this is how vision works. Okay, now, so let's take a look at this now. Oh. Okay. Now, from the black and white picture that we have seen, you will see that the reason why we can see pictures around us is because there is light. And with the light, it actually, photons of light hit, millions of it hit our eyes, send the message to our retina, hits our retina, and the retina sends messages to our brain. And this is where all the information will go. Okay, now, so light reflects, and therefore we can see images. And it happens seconds, so quickly that we sometimes don't recognize all these images that come so quickly to us. Now, let's take a look at the next picture. So what has happened now is, based on this, we basically now are able to see in this sequence. So in other words, when I look out or I look at something, my brain actually sends the first 3 messages I will receive will be the who and the what is in the place. So let's say, for example, I enter into a training room. The first thing I see is who and what is in the room. Now, if everybody that I look at, it seems to be executives are properly attired, then I have very little fear. So I will walk into the room. But if they are carrying a gun, then my reptilian brain will actually make a decision. Do I fight or do I flight? Now, so based on this, the first thing that we see is who and what's in the room. Then you feel, oh, it's interesting. So I think it's normal. There are people there are professionals. I walk into the room and then my brain starts counting. So how my brain counts is we count clusters. We count clusters, okay? Now, when I say clusters, it will be like groups of 5. I probably see 100 people, but I can't count 100 people at one go. So I will count clusters of 5. Ramesh says he can't hear me. So I will try to speak a little bit slower, Ramesh. Okay. Now, so basically, what happens now is I will count, and then as I'm standing in the room, I will look at the distance of everyone in the room. I will be able to tell who is standing nearest to me, and I will be able to tell who is standing furthest from me. Then I make a decision of where I want to walk, so I can tell everybody in the specific locations in the room. So the brain sees three things. Then we then look at the next step. The moment certain sequence of events have happened, time would have passed. Picture A to picture B, seconds have passed just now. Picture C to picture D, hours have passed, because there was a sequence of events. Okay, so when there's movement, we will be able to tell that. Okay, now the next one. Then we have what we call the how. Give me a minute. Okay, just give me a minute. I think I've lost. Okay, so what basically happens now is the how is, we then begin to say, oh, the how it all happened, and therefore resulted in this. And then the last one is actually the why. So we have this sequence of events, a sequence that we are actually talking about with regard to this. Okay, so step by step. Okay, now, so understanding this is how our eye sees. So what, remember what we said just now, we call the science of vision. The 6 W's means 6 ways I see, 6 pictures I draw. Now let's take a look at it now. So in other words, when I say draw, you can see from here, the who and the what, we will draw a portrait. The how much, we will draw a chart. The where, we will draw a map. And then when we go to when, we will draw a timeline. The how, we will do a flow chart. And then at the end, we will have the why. And the why actually summarizes an equation for us. And in the case of the black and white picture that we saw, the 4 pictures, the why it happened is because dog love birds. Birds don't love dogs. And that's why the commotion happened. Okay, now, so based on that, we have now what we call the 6 W's. I repeat again, 6 pictures, 6 W's we see, 6 pictures we draw. Okay, 6 ways we see, 6 pictures we draw. Okay, so we move on now. Now, so to sum it up, who and what, we draw a portrait. How much, we draw a chart. Where, we draw a map. When, we draw a timeline. How, we draw a flow chart. And then the why, we do an equation. And in this case, if we were to say this is really laggy, plus change is really laggy. So I wanted to put square plus triangle is equal to a circle. And therefore, often that will be the change that will take place. Okay? It is really laggy. Okay, now, so let's move on. I was actually planning to draw this together with you, and I'm not sure, but I am going to try. So if I can't, I would like you to draw a circle. Everybody draw a circle. Let me see whether I can use a paper to do this. You can see a paper, okay? Now I would like you to draw a circle. like this. And I want you to draw a vertical line like this. And I want you to draw 2 diagonal lines across like this. Okay, now, so the first one is the who and the what. As you can see from here, the who and the what. And what we're going to do is we are going to draw the portrait and the object that we are discussing. So this is what we're going to draw. Okay, the who and the what. The next one is the how much. And what we're going to draw for the how much is we are going to draw a chart. The third one is the where. We are going to draw a map. And what it is now is the map shows my house and I want to go to somewhere else, which could be a treasure place. Okay, so this is the where. Then the when. I draw a timeline. So this is what I have now, a timeline. So if you have noticed this, we have drawn the first 4 W's, and the next 2 W's is basically to solve the problem, which is how and why. So we put how and why there. And what we're going to do is for how, we are going to do a flow chart. A flow chart. And the last one, the why, we want to do an equation. So this is what we normally do. So when we solve problems, this is what we're going to do, which means we are using the way our eye sees, and we are going to take that sequence to look at our problems and bite-sized pieces. Okay, now, so I am going to share with you an example. My goodness, it can't even move now. Okay, so this is actually an amazing story. When I first bought the back of the napkin, I was fascinated with this story. But except that in the first book of the back of the napkin, the company name was not revealed. When I bought the second book, The Unfolding the Napkin, and they actually then explain the entire case study, which is the work the author did for Thomson when he was actually with an organization. And I tell you, after I read it and look at the pictures, I was so amazed. Okay, now, so this is a $1 million chart. So let me now share it with you. So what happened is in 2001, Thomson is a Canadian listed company, and they wanted to be listed in the New York Stock Exchange. And so what happened at that point of time, they actually needed to actually build brand equity in the United States. So what they actually wanted to do was they then went on to actually got a research company to actually study the competitive landscape, to look at all the competitors' financials, and then they came up with a deck of slides which was presented to the client. So this was what the client received, which is a deck of PowerPoint slides. So a total of 400 PowerPoint slides. And I think all of us are very, very familiar with this. And if you take a look at it, it is really interesting. It's because when you look at the pictures that have been drawn, we always present it in PowerPoint slides. And probably after the 5th or 6th PowerPoint slides, I think we probably go to sleep. It is what we call death by PowerPoint. Okay, so this became something which they looked at and they decided to give it to the author, and then they drew a couple of pictures from here to build what we call their brand strategy. So I'm going to show the work of Dan Rome. The first picture. As you can see from this picture, this is the who and the what. I'm going to attempt to draw again. So this is the who and the what. It is really laggy. Yeah, so sorry about that. Now, so basically, as you can see, Thomson, okay, just give you a bit of background why I'm excited about this, because I worked in the bank and we actually use Thomson because we buy database from Thomson. And if we take a look at what it is now, Thomson actually have what we call 4 products, 4 broad range. They have what we call financial information, they sell publications, legal regulatory information, and they sell scientific and health information. So Thomson actually sells financial information. And the competitor, obviously you can see here, is Bloomberg. Competitor is Reuters. So these are the competitors. So for learning, which is what Thomson is doing in terms of learning, they actually competitors are McGraw-Hill and competitors Pearson. Basically book publications or textbook publications. Then of course you have what we call, they also sell legal regulatory information. And with the legal regulatory information that they have, so what they did is, the competitors is actually Wooster Kluwer. And they also sell what we call scientific and health information. The competitors is Reed Elsevier. So you can see the first picture, the who and the what. Now looking at this picture, there are some brands that you are familiar with. And there are some brands that we probably don't even know unless you are in that industry. So the first picture, the who and the what. Now let's take a look at the second picture now. The second picture actually shows the how much picture. Now, as you can see from here, the size of the triangle depicts the size of the revenue. And this was when, my goodness, it was mind-blowing. The reason why it's mind-blowing was because I always thought that Bloomberg was bigger than Thomson, or from my perspective, okay? And I'm not wrong, because in the financial market, Bloomberg is definitely bigger than Thomson, but I never knew Thomson to be such a huge company. And based on what they have now is, you can see from here that the smallest in terms of total revenue is Bloomberg. The one that's the highest revenue is actually Thomson. So you can see this, okay? Now, so based on that, then you see the color code. Blue as financial information, green as learning, selling learning products. Then you have legal regulatory as brown, purple as scientific and health. And as you can see from the picture, the biggest financial, the biggest company that sells the financial data is actually Reuters. Then you see the color. If you look at all the blue now, you can see some are light blue and some are dark blue. The darker the color, the more well-known they are in the industry. The lighter the color means the industry is not familiar that they are selling this information. So it shows what we call the brand recognition. Okay, now, so this is the how much picture. So we're going to move on now to the next one. The next picture has got to do with the where. Now, so when we look at the where, when these coordinates are drawn, and as you can see from the y-axis is about corporate brand recognition, And then you can see at the bottom, which is the x-axis, which is the breadth of offerings. So as far as we're concerned now with this frame, we are now going to see where, in terms of brand recognition, who has the highest brand recognition, and then we're going to see who has the lowest brand recognition, and of course the breadth of their offering. So the next picture we can see now is, you can see from here that actually Thomson is at the bottom, multi-products, but their brand recognition is very low compared to Bloomberg and Reuters. And Bloomberg and Reuters are basically up there. Okay, so as you can see the distance, this becomes a problem. Okay, so in terms of it, so what they really need to do now is to actually move Thomson at the bottom in 2001. They want to move up in 2003, where they plan to get listed in the New York Stock Exchange. So they want to move up, right? So as they move, they want to do that, they have to think about a strategy. So it's unfortunate that the pen I can't draw now is because it's very laggy. So I would like you to imagine this now. So Thomson now is right at the bottom. The whole idea is in 2001 they were at that position, but to get the market to recognize their brand, they need to move up right to the top. Okay, so basically what they need to do is they need to go up, and going up means they are trying to now move into a totally new space. Now, so during the discussion, what was discussed at that point of time was a lot of the brand consultant to get Dan together with the brand and marketing team. Then they started discussing and says, hey, why not do this? Why not we take every product that we have, and they had what we call Westlaw, and put Thomson in front of Westlaw, and then take another product which is physician desk reference, which is PDR, and then put, instead of calling it PDR, why not put Thomson PDR? They also have a product called First Data. So why not, instead of using First Data, why not also put Thomson First Data? So over the next 2 years, 2001 to 2013, if they do that, then everybody in the market space will know how that Thomson is actually a large organization from the multiple products that they have. So they have to move it up. That then happened that the CEO came into the room, took a look at this picture, and he says, oh my gosh, I have never seen anybody draw a picture of my company to look like this. And so they presented it to him again, and sharing with him how he could move up from the bottom to the top by rebranding, by actually putting Thomson on every single product that they had. And he was like, wow, very excited. And they walked out. And probably 1 or 2 minutes later, he came back to the room and he says, there is another strategy. And that's when in 2013, in the meeting, 2001, in that meeting room, he said, maybe we should consider, in order for us to move up, instead of just only, so this picture speaks 1,000, speaks volumes, okay? So it's move up. The other option is, why not we do it this way? So why don't we buy Reuters? Of course, everybody wasn't sure what that meant, okay? Because at that point of time, Reuters was the biggest database company, financial database company. So after they got listed, my slides also don't move. So in 2007, what happened was, it has been, today is called Thomson Reuters. After reading the book and looking, seeing the pictures that Dan drew, blew my mind. And that's why I was so convinced that this is what I want to do. Now, my friend, his name is Chan Wai. He's now, I'm actually in Singapore. Chan Wai is in Malaysia, and he actually drew this as we talk. It's because he's a graphic recorder. So I will ask QGLUE to send every one of you this picture so that you have an appreciation of what we talk about today. Is that good? Okay, so I have ended my session. And what we're going to do now is we are open to question time, okay? So anybody wants to ask me any question? You can always type in the question box. Okay, let me open up. Ivy, I saw the question that you wanted to ask about showing the drawings again. I believe QGLUE will actually send you the pictures, and you probably will be able to see the picture quite clearly from here. Okay? Yes. Do we get the presentation? Oh my goodness. What I would do is I will give you some what we call a 2 or 3 pictures to actually share a little bit about how the tools are used. And I'm glad you all liked it. Any other questions you want to do? Want to ask me? Awesome. I love all the comments though. Okay. Yes, you are going to get the last picture via the email. No questions with regard to what was shared? Okay, somebody asked me this, Rahul, right? You asked me in some of the clients trainings that I have done, what has been some of the opportunities of improvement received? Okay, I think where I come from now is because when the picture becomes clearer and when they draw it, they actually bring it back as a potential solutions to the organization. Now, this is a technique. It's going to take time. In fact, many of us often feel that we need to draw the best picture. It doesn't. In Napkin, what we do is we do quick sketches. And when the idea begins to evolve, and then when you're doing a presentation to the board, then you will be able to actually draw it in probably very slick presentation slides. Now, to take one step back, okay? Now, so based on this, this is very important that we look at in terms of this is that the opportunity lies or how they can improve this is because they are going to force themselves to look at the details. So the moment I look at the details, so the opportunities will lie in this area. Is your who changing? If the who is changing, I will change the what I offer. Is the how much, that means my revenue is stagnated. Is there a different matrix now that I can look at my financial performance? The where, do I look at market positioning? Where will I shift to? Or how do I meet my client's requirement? Because many a times we continue to produce, but we tend not to listen to our customers or where they want us to position ourselves to. And of course, the when would be looking at strategic planning in action. Now, the how part often involves this very fundamental thing. And when we saw the how, is often change has to take place. And when we talk about change, it's always got to do with what we call learning new things or new knowledge and skills to actually take us to the next level. Yes, a question asked by Aditi, in which platform? What do you mean by that? You mean as in drawing? I basically use PowerPoint slide. Is that okay? Who in the organization should get trained? Actually, everybody in my mind, because the whole idea is we want to speak a common language in the organization. And if everybody, that's why there are some assignments that we do is basically based on what we call standard icons that we have, and we use similar icons. Some assignments that we actually, like for example, in a bank, they are going to do derivatives or something like that. So it is a very complex thing to explain to the customer. So we actually train everyone depending on their goals and requirements. Recently, I did an assignment for the colonels of the Navy. Then, of course, I also have done an assignment for a retail outlet, a retail outfit, which has a huge chain. So it all depends on what you look at. Yeah. It's yeah, you can do 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, depending on the depth you want to cover. Yeah. So a 1 day workshop will probably just basically talk about the tools. We will do an exercise where so the whole concept of the workshop is I don't give you the case study. It is basically you come in with your problems and you draw your problems in the class. So basically then we do a 1 day session. For some organizations that want that, but a 1 day will not be complete because it is very hard to exercise the tool. So we normally run a 2 day workshop. And for people who want to delve to solutions for a specific industry, then of course we can do a 3 day workshop. Yeah. So day 1 will be looking at tools and looking at a problem we will solve. Day 2, we will go and solve the problem using the 6 Ws. And so we're doing the solutioning on day 2. And then we will look at Squid to look at the presentation. Yeah. Dashboards for companies MD. Yes, obviously, Sita, I agree with you. Yes, certainly. Okay. In design thinking, Hikra, she asked the question. So I actually teach design in the university. And obviously, when we talk about ideation, when we talk about all these things, we are actually basically looking at fundamental pictures. But of course, when you talk about the design thinking, you're talking about the 5 steps. Okay, so but for us, when we talk about framing the problems, we're actually looking at diving the problem in depth. And the moment we dive the problem in depth, it becomes the more detail I can have, the solutions are in the pictures that we draw. Yeah. Okay. So I think I'll take one more question. How do you draw the doodles? Again, Aditi, you asked me the question, right? If you use your PowerPoint slide, if you open up in presentation mode, at the bottom of your PowerPoint slide, there are icons, which is a pen, and then you can do that. But for me, what I'm using is an iPad, and I draw on a PowerPoint PowerPoint slide. So that's quite easy to do. Okay, folks, that's all I will do for today. And thank you so much for spending your 1.5 hours with me. And if I have one thing for you to take away is I would like you to practice the drawing and to think about the 6 Ws and start drawing your problems in the picture. Just draw 4 pictures. And I'm sure you will find that it will be useful as you delve the depth of your problem. So thank you so much. And okay, one more slide, which is actually, yeah, you can see from here. Yeah, so if you want to connect with us, feel free to connect with the organization and look at the contact details below. Okay, thank you so much and have a great evening. Bye.